Want to 10x your transfer budget in Football Manager 2022? Well, I used this trick for my Leeds team, and in year one, I managed to do just that. Now, I'm not talking about adding a manager, you know, that age-old trick of selling your worst players to a dummy manager's team. I'm talking about doing it within the confines and the rules of the game. So make sure you stay tuned till the end. Do hit like if you enjoyed the video. Hit subscribe if you are new. We're aiming for about 100 likes on this video, so that would help us out a lot. But without further ado, let's get going. So I've been asked a few times now on some of the tips and tricks videos that I've been doing, and subscribe to the channel if you want Football Manager 2022 tips and tricks. And they've asked me how this particular tip works, right? So hopefully I'm going to go into enough detail to explain it to you guys today, and you can go away and ultimately use it in your saves, right? So where do you start if you want to 10x your transfer budget at the start of Football Manager 2022? Well, of course, you're going to start at your finances screen, all right? This is the finances screen here, and if you see at the top right hand corner, you can see the transfer budget and the wage budget, but crucially underneath, the make budget adjustment toggle. Clicking on that obviously brings up the magical wage budget / transfer budget slider. Sliding it down here will allocate more funds into your wage budget, and obviously sliding it up towards this side will allocate more funds into your transfer budget. It's a great place to start if you're looking at upping your transfer budget at the start of the game. You might be able to squeeze a couple of extra pennies from your wage budget. Now, all clubs are different, and some clubs are in different financial situations than others, obviously, so it might not be possible for you, but it's definitely the place to start. And you can see here that I got £36 million in the transfer budget kitty. Remember that number, that'll come in useful later on in the video. Now, the second place to start is with your Deadwood, okay? Once you've got to grips with your squad, their strengths and weaknesses, I think it's really useful to utilize the squad depth page and make a list of exactly the players that you want in each position, leaving gaps for places that you want to reinforce, and doubling up on certain places where you think you need a little bit of cover. So for example, here I've got Patrick Bamford up front, backed up by Alvarez and Joe Gelhardt, but maybe I wanted to strengthen the Stuart Dallas position in midfield. Generally, to start with, I'd just have two in each position, and then towards the end, I would maybe add a third player who could maybe deputize for a couple of different positions, right? And this depends on how many competitions you're in as well. If you're in a lot of European competitions, as well as FA Cup, League Cup, or wherever you're playing your football, that will determine how strong you want the depth of your squad to be, right? But once you've done this and you've cleared out all the players that you don't think are good enough to play in each individual position in your desired primary tactical setup / formation, any player that doesn't fit into that then becomes Deadwood, right? You can sell them for whatever fee you want, really. Essentially, you can release them on a free sometimes, and that will add yet more juicy transfer value into your budget. And don't forget, every player that you sell comes off the wage budget as well, so you can use that juicy little slider to just knock up those wage figures, and thus just squeeze a little bit more transfer revenue into your budget on your way to the super 10x transfer budget goal. But these two tips alone aren't gonna 10x your transfer budget, right? For many clubs, it's not gonna come anywhere near. The best, and by far the best way to do it, is by deferring your payments for the transfers that you do make. Let me explain. Footballers are expensive commodities, right? And think about it in the personal world of personal finance. The most expensive thing most people will ever buy is a house. Now, the vast majority of people aren't going to go and buy their house with cash up front, right? They're going to defer the payments over a long period of time, usually by going to the bank and getting a mortgage, which is offset by the promise of their future income, thus making the purchase of the expensive asset way more manageable. And you can see here, I bought Gonzalo Ineixao, one of the most promising young players on the game. And don't forget to subscribe for more Wonderkids. He's valued at 72 to 85 million pounds. And we only had 10 million pounds to start with. So by deferring payments, you can get hold of these guys, not just one of them, but two of them, three of them, four of them, and even five. So let's do the math Here on the transfer screen, you can see all the players that I signed myself. It starts off here from Samuel Ritchie and it goes all the way down to the aforementioned Gonzalo Ineixao. Now I've added these up and this comes to £119 million exactly spent on transfers. Now that is basically 10x, right? That's 10x our £10 million already. But look, you can see in terms of players out the door, I have received, and again, this goes from Liam Cooper all the way down to Sean McGurk, £80 million. Now, if you take 80 away from 119, that leaves you with 40 million. And then if you add on the 36 million that we've got left in the transfer kitty, which if you've been paying attention, we spoke about earlier, you get a figure of 74.6 million. So if you take off the 10 million that we started with, the 10 million transfer budget, you can see that this technique alone accounts for around 64 million pounds worth of transfer spending. Free cash, 64 million pounds worth of free money. Let me show you how exactly it's done. So once you've found the player that you want to buy, and you'll find them, funnily enough, on the transfer screen, scouting for players. Here we've got transfer listed players, and top of the list comes Steven Bergwijn. We can see here this asking price is about 16.25 million. So we'll head on in and make an offer for Steven Bergwijn. Now normally if you haven't got the Football Manager editor, and I use it for just purposes of making videos, you'll only see the transfer value, right? 26 million. You won't see the asking price as you did in previous Football Manager games. You can get to that asking price by doing what's called negotiation, right? And I'm not going to go into negotiation in this video because it's probably another separate video to itself. But once you've done your brilliant negotiating and you've come to a figure which you think is acceptable to both you and the selling party, that's when you use your magic. So what you need to focus on is the additional fees here. And once you go to add additional fees, you see installments, head on to 12 monthly and then down to 3 installments. You can see we've got that selected here and it says installments 12 monthly, 3 at £325 each of £1,000. Now what we want to do is share the total cost of the transfer between the installments monthly and the total fee payable. So if I go back to the total fee payable now, we'll call this roughly £5 million. And again, you can negotiate this figure, but you want to negotiate it down as far as possible and then plonk the rest into the 12 monthly installments. So in this case, that'd be around 11 million. Take note of what it says on the bottom of the screen here. This is the most important part of the negotiation. You can see the potential value of this deal is 16 million, which we found out earlier was his asking price, or it might have been 16.5 million. And then right underneath in big bold letters, current season transfer budget cost 5 million. So essentially we're getting a 16.5 million pound player for 5 million pounds here, a fraction of his cost. We hit suggest terms and you can see straight away we're very close to getting that deal done. They've asked for an extra 3.2 million after 50 league games. We could probably just get away with removing that and popping the extra 0.5 million onto the 12 monthly installments. Suggest those terms and there we are. Happy days. We've just spent 5 million on a player who should have cost 16.5 million. Free money. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And while it is important to note that this will reduce some of the capital available to you in future transfer fees, and that is detailed here with 3.83 million coming out of next year's transfer budget, 3.83 million coming out of the transfer budget after that, and 3.83 million coming out of the transfer budget after that. The differences are negligible compared to the advantages of getting the right players into your squad for a fraction of the price straight away. And that's how I managed to 10x my transfer budget at Leeds United in FM22. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe if you want to see more lovely content like this. I'll see you soon. Peace.